Something I like to say is that back in the 80s, we all respected Wayne Rainey, but we wanted to be Kevin Schwantz. And our Soupkast listeners are lucky enough today to hear the thoughts of none other than Kevin Schwantz, because he's here and joining us on this Soupkast number 194.34.
194.34. What a great number.
Yep, no doubt. How are you today, sir?
All is well. It's too windy. I'm at the coast. I have a house down in a little town called Seadrift.
Yeah, I was wondering which
It's
of
right
the
on the
9
Gulf
houses
Coast.
you were at, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I've been spending a lot of time fishing these days, but it's just too windy today. Well, I went out and fought the wind yesterday with one of my neighbors, but the fishing just wasn't great. We caught a few fish, but we decided today it was windy enough again that it wasn't spectacular yesterday. So why don't we go out and fight it this time? So anyway, washed the truck, getting ready to change a flat on my bicycle. I got a beach cruiser so I can go do my little 4-mile ride into town and back.
Cool.
That's kind of been my exercise these days, but not a whole lot, hanging out.
Yeah, it's a strange world out there. What's it like down there? I mean, everybody got masks and staying inside, or what?
I had to go to the hardware store today. Half of the people in the hardware store had them on, but half of those people may have been employees, and I think they have to wear them.
Yeah.
But there were a bunch of people of the 10 or 12 people that I saw in the store, there were, not everybody had masks. Probably half the people had masks on, but then I went in the grocery store, which is our pretty big grocery store there in Port Lavaca, and I don't remember seeing anybody with a mask. You know what? I did see a couple people with masks on, as well as employees all had masks on. So, it's not too far off of normal. Yeah, the traffic in Houston and Austin is not as bad as it is typically. But otherwise, Austin, I was in Austin last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Went to a dinner with a bunch of my buddies and their wives at a restaurant called Lonesome Dove, and you had to get your temperature taken by the forehead thermometer when you walked in, and then you had to sign a disclosure saying you're not sick, and here's your temperature, and da da da. And then there was a group of 8 of us, so we had to sit at 2 tables of 4, and we had to be 6 or 8 or 10 feet apart, whatever the norm is now in Austin. But you walk right in a restaurant here in Seadrift, which we only have 2 of, but walk right in, sit down. You just can't sit the booths. You can't sit in every booth. You got to sit in every other booth. So
okay.
It's not bad.
No, and as it gets warmer here, I think things will return more or less to normal. But up here, it's the only place where it's really scary is if you go to a grocery store up here, man. A lot of old people in masks, so all you can really see is their eyes, and man, you can tell they're scared. You can see by their eyes that they are scared. So that's the only disturbing thing, other than, that's it. So
I feel like when you see people especially in Austin, and I think now in Austin, you have to wear a mask to go in a grocery store.
Oh.
So, but you don't hear it, and I feel like even before they mandated masks in the grocery store, I'd go in and you'd see people with masks on. They kind of like maybe a concerned look, or maybe almost an angry look that you didn't have a mask on. So.
Oh yeah, well, I'm the last guy you want to, have that conversation with in a store. All right. They might be mad at me, but I'm. You want to talk about any current MotoGP news or the lack thereof?
Yeah, the lack thereof is somewhat concerning. I have a couple of friends that are pretty close and that WhatsApp every now and then and say, oh man, it's we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. We've been told not to expect anything at least until the end of July.
Yep.
And maybe just some decision at the end of July that something's actually going to happen. So I don't know. I've heard them say they're just going to run European Championship, and of that, I'm sure 5 rounds would be Spanish and 4 or 5 rounds would be Italian, and they'll just blow off the rest of the world. But it's interesting that the FIM states that to be a world championship, it has to be 13 rounds. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can start running multiple races, I guess, at a couple of venues and get it done. But I guess I heard Austria as well because it's a privately owned facility that
oh
they
yeah,
can do it there. And also, Abraham's dad still owns the Czech round or whatever, the Czech track, or has control of it. I don't know if owned is. Yeah, I'm trying to get some parts out of Japan, so I'm talking to my buddy Hu. His name is Hu, and he
hmm
lives in Tokyo, downtown Tokyo. He has a motorcycle shop in downtown Tokyo, and man, he said it's just locked down over there. In fact,
oh
I contacted Fujio last night and asked him to try and get some parts to me, and his response was about the same. And that's basically if you want to pay $500 for a small box of parts to get next date here, that's how it's going to work. And if you don't, then you're not seeing those things anytime soon. Anyway, so
wow,
yeah.
huh.
So I don't know, man. The only current thing is, and this, I mean, okay. Let me just ask you this: What did you think of Lorenzo's 2019 season and his reaction since his retirement? Just throwing it right in your lap.
You know, that was a guy that I think realized, and I said it somewhere not long ago, and that, well, somebody asked me, what if I'd have ridden a Honda? And I said, geez, you know, until you go faster than the guy that's riding it right now,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get anything done your way. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
continue to have to ride it the way until you go faster than he does. You just persevere with it, suffer
Yep.
through it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think that was exactly the case with Lorenzo. You know, he's got a much different style um, to Marquez, and you know, Honda says, well, but he's winning races, you know. But when he doesn't win, he's crashing. So what? But he's still
Yep.
winning championships. And you know what? We're just, you know, here's your bike. You guys can do with it what you want. You can try and adjust around whatever problems you're having. But, you know, until you show us some consistent lap times and start running at the front of some races, we're not doing anything different.
Yep.
We're staying exactly the way it is. So, and I think Lorenzo's style is too different for him to try and adapt to
Yep.
trying to ride the thing like Marquez does. So, and you know, it was George realizing he made a mistake, and probably the only way to get out of his Honda contract and save face was to say, "I'm going to retire,"
Yep.
and that got everything legally cleared and done.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that Honda didn't say, "Okay, but you got a no compete clause as well. You
Yep.
can't just sign up and ride something else." But anyway, maybe George and his management guys pulled that off. So, you know, just a guy that wasn't happy where he was, and you know, thought retirement was maybe the only avenue left.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got out of it the way he did, and you know, saw that Yamaha still had some interest, you know, he's back. I bet he wants to race full time in 20. You know,
Yep. I would.
maybe they get to race some this year, but
I
for
mean,
sure next year.
I watched the press conference when he retired, and you could see in his eyes that he wasn't retiring. That you could definitely look right in his eyes, and you knew, it was the only avenue left was to try and get out of this somehow. And Puig, God, he says he was surprised that Lorenzo actually wanted to ride, and I'm hoping he's being facetious there
Yeah,
because I mean he as a team manager, you really want to be a lot more aware than that, I think. And
and it's funny because now Yamaha's pretty much got everybody kind of. Rossi's there, Lorenzo's there as a test rider, but who knows?
yeah, Fab,
Quartararo's
yep,
there, Morbidelli's there,
yeah,
Vignales. I mean, they've got everybody except Mark Marquez,
yep,
pretty
true,
much.
yeah, and yeah. I mean, I was talking to your old mechanic Hamish the other day, and I didn't know that he went to a Yamaha team after he worked with you or
Yeah, he
something.
was at
Yeah,
Red Bull with Bob McLean,
yeah, he
and
was
he was
telling
there when
me.
Hopper was there.
Yeah, and when someone won. Who was it? Oh, it was
Crafer.
Crafer won, and he just said the political fallout from Yamaha when they beat the factory team was not pretty. It wasn't. There was not eternal joy coming. from Yamaha after they had done that. So it's a strange political situation too that, Fabio is kind of on the B team, and so let's talk about something I don't think you've ever really talked about it, but I mean, it was a cool period in your career. And it was way before I think it was before Superbike and it was before Grand Prix for sure, but the old RZ Cup Challenge, RZ 350 Cup Challenge. Do you remember those days?
I do. That was 84. I got an FJ 600. My parents gave me one to race, and then I came home from the first weekend. I was like, and I could only, race 5 or 6 classes on the 600. I was like, man, I just saw some RZ 350s. I really would like to have one of those too. And my mom and dad said, that's great, but we're not going to give you the bike. Here's an easy way for you to build your credit. Ford Motor Company was financing for Yamaha at the time, or maybe it was for just us as a dealer. I don't remember. But anyway, so I filled out a credit app. They co-signed on it, and I went to racing an RZ 350. And I could ride it in Formula 2 and then D production and D Superbike. And that was about all it was really competitive in because I had a 600, which was C production. So, but yeah, and then I didn't do a lot of the AMA CCS stuff, which is, I think, where the RZ Cup stuff was. I mostly chased the Wera things, but at the end of the year in 84, did we go to Daytona and try an endurance race at the end of the year, and at the end of 85, I think we did as well. And in I think it was 85, Stan Chiras from RSC Components, or actually just RSC.
Yep.
He had built a bike and said, "Here, I want you to ride this." Thing is, we were trying to race it in Formula 2 or something super lightweight GP. I don't remember what the class was, but there was a GPZ 550 that, if I remember correctly, Kevin Rinsell may have rode. And I apologize to whoever's bike it was if it wasn't Rinsell. And then Jay Parnell had an RZ 350 that had a TZ bottom end on it.
Oh.
So it was anything but RZ Cup, and mine was an RZ with pipes.
Yeah.
And being as I had no points in CCS or whatever it was then, I had to start back row of the second wave.
Oh, boy.
And those two guys got to mixing it up and running each other off in the grass and ended up coming from back to front in 8 laps at Daytona. I think in two waves of 30 or 2 waves of 20. I'm not sure what they were. And got to those guys right at the end, and they were still so focused on each other that I slipped through and managed to get away far enough that I won the race. But, I mean, Parnell came flying back by just past the finish line. So it was a fun race, and I remember RZ Cup or D production anyway, which had Yamaha contingency money on it at the GNF at Wera. I tried. I had just gone from using Metzler's to using Dunlops because in 85 I was riding a Superbike that had I had Dunlops on the Yosh bike whenever we raced it on the West Coast rounds. But anyway, so I was trying to use an older Dunlop front and crashed in turn 7. I think it's first or second lap. It's like, man, I really could have used that $500.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Making payments and hoping to trying to get something to cash. Yeah. Wow. I remember that. I think I shot a photo of you somewhere. I can't remember where it was. Was it Daytona? Because you were looking pretty forlorn on the grid. Maybe that was or was it Road Atlanta? Where did you pass the 30-odd riders? What track was that?
Yeah, that was at Daytona.
Okay. So did you pass 2 waves of guys?
Yeah, well, the wave I started with, I got whether there was 15 or 20 or 30 of them, and then got to the first wave because I'd come out of the second.
Yeah.
Got to them and managed to, and I guess maybe just played it right with draft, and like I said, the front guys, Parnell and whoever the other mystery man on that GPZ 550 was, they were carving each other up, and I think took each other into the grass a couple different times, which gave me big chunks of time back.
Yeah.
And but I mean, when I went there, I was like, well, I know who the fastest guys in this group are, and I'll be lucky to catch them. But as I watched them coming towards me as the race progressed, I think I had one shot at it, and I got by them going into the first turn, managed to gap them just enough that I had a big enough lead to get to the finish line because they had both of them had a fair bit of top speed on me.
So it was an 8 or 10 lap race, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you passed like 40 guys in 8 or 10 laps at Daytona.
Yes.
That's a great story. I mean, did you feel a natural? I mean, which bike did you feel a more natural affinity for, the FJ or the RZ, or I mean, or didn't you care?
It didn't really matter. I really loved the FJ because we endurance raced it, and I felt like I could get away with anything on the FJ. And the RZ, I would race production and superbike on it, and I would between races because the production race was pretty early in the day, and then the superbike was pretty late in the day. So I'd have to rejet, pull the carbs off, rejet the carb, put pipes on, and try and get something to help equalize the advantage that some of the truly modified RZ 350s had in that class. So, I've never claimed to be much of a mechanic, and I think I may have blown it up once. It's like, dang, I did forget to put jets in it, didn't I? Or forgot to change the jets in it.
Oh yeah.
But 85 was one of those years for me. I had a contract to race for Yosh. I was making whatever. Well, the contract didn't pay me anything. My performance paid me stuff. So if I won a race, I got to keep the prize money. And so I was still I was racing professionally, but I was still chasing. 85 was 84. The Yamaha didn't have contingency, I don't think. 85 they did. So I went a couple of places and rode guys' bikes that. One of the guys, Pat, and I can't remember Pat's last name. Pat called me. They were racing at Green Valley, and he had gone from working at our dealership to having a dealership of his own right up near Green Valley, which is just outside of Dallas. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Hey," he goes, "come up. I'll split because I think it was $1,000 to win.
Real money back then.
On an RZ 350 in D production or on a 600 in C production." So yeah, it was real money. Yeah. And so I went up and rode it. And when I got there, of course. It was my opportunity to realize how much I was going to, throughout my career, continue to dislike John Kaczynski.
Because
he walks up and he goes, "Hey, man, good job at that trial, but I'm going to show Yost they hired the wrong guy because I'm going to kick your ass today."
Oh, boy.
Man, I am looking forward to this. Bring it on. And I don't have any idea where he finished. I'm sure he went to his long list of excuses like he typically did.
Yes. And that grating voice when he's poking you, that I remember. Yeah, several times I had well, John would dispute facts, for sure. I mean, it was accepted facts, and John would, I don't need to tell you, he'd be like, I don't think that, I don't think you know what you're talking about, which is probably true. But anyway, I
won the 600 race. That was Jamie and I had a pretty close race in the 600. And John was, me and Jamie James. And then I got to ride John Klaus's GPZ 750, which I had, spent some of my winnings on to put wheels and brakes and stuff on. And John had tuned the engine. And so he brought the bike up and actually won the Formula One race. And I beat a gentleman by the name of Bob Retoff. And Retoff had the fastest Suzuki GS1000 that I think must have been about 1,400 cc's. And at Texas World Speedway, I used to just stand on the front straightaway and watch that thing go by and go, wow. And I don't know what impressed me more, how fast that thing was, or just the outright how much it looked like a missile coming past George Wallace's TZ 750.
Wow!
And on the banking at Texas World, where there was gaps that the average 2.5 inch, 3.5 inch tire back then would fall right in.
Yeah.
And he would wind that thing up coming around the banking and come down the front straightaway, and I used to just stand there and go, wow. What it'd be like to go that friggin' fast, man.
Great. Cool. That's a great story.
But Retoff and I had a pretty big battle. Of course, he had some horsepower on me, but I could just get back to him on the brakes, and then I had to force my way by. And I think it may have upset him a little bit because as soon as I beat him to the line, I stood up and kind of stood on the pegs and punched the air, and he thought that I was standing up, and he said, "You pointed at your butt. I think you were telling me to kiss your ass." And I said, "Absolutely not. Was I doing anything like that? I was just standing up because I was excited to win, and to beat a guy of his caliber was something that I took away from that weekend." And I was like, "Man, that's the guy to beat, I think, besides George Wallace, as far as who's got the fastest bike and who goes around Texas World the quickest." So.
Yeah, that's I mean, back then Texas World was.
I have two tracks that I can to this day, especially now that I no longer race, and even more so now that Texas World is gone. Two places I never crashed at: Willow Springs and Texas World, and both places that you do not want to fall off at because most corners are going pretty fast.
Yes. Well, those are good places to not crash. Hey, Ken Vreeke just messaged me, told me to tell you hello. So.
Tell Ken I said hey.
He rode most of your superbikes, didn't he? Like when he was working for magazines, you remember that? He rode that 700 air-cooled thing, and all the way to the GSX-R 750, as far as I can remember.
No, I'm pretty sure he did when he was he at Cycle?
Yeah, he moved around a bunch. So cycle and then motorcyclist, and he started on his own. But man,
Freaky was one of those guys that was hard to beat, especially at Willow. Holy moly!
Yeah, he was fast.
You had to pull out all the stops to get him there.
No doubt. So you were working on your own RZ350 most of the time?
Most of the time, that's correct. Every now and then we'd have the opportunity of taking it. Maybe if we raced in Texas, I had somebody there to help. But if we went to Missouri, I was telling Tara the story the other day, Wentzville, Missouri. And it rained, and I ran Messlers, and I absolutely cleaned up. I think I left the 600 in the truck, in the trailer, and it was one of those places that kind of had a long straightaway, but it was up and down my memory, up and down this side of this riverbank, up and down, and in the rain, it was absolutely just taking candy from a baby there.
Beautiful.
But there, and then we went to Atlanta, went to Rockingham. We went bunch of different places. And if I needed that extra, if I had seen in practice there were some guys in D Superbike that were gonna be tough to beat, I'd have to turn into a mechanic for a little bit and rejet the carbs and put the pipes on.
Cool. I'd like to see that. I have an RZ350 now. I mean, I've had one for a while, and it's crazy that if you're in public and you start a two-stroke motorcycle now, you probably know this because you have some stuff too. I mean, the younger people basically just stop in their tracks. They're just like, what in the hell is that thing?
I've never heard anything make that noise.
Yeah, and you can tell by looking at their faces, they are.
Yeah. I've got a couple RG 500s and I have an RGV 250 as well.
Oh, yes. So Yes.
Yeah. And then my latest favorite dirt bike is a Husky 250 two-stroke, oil injected, fuel injected.
And how is that?
No, it's awesome. I love riding that thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. You want to tell the sweatshirt story?
Oh, that.
Or would you rather not?
I think you mentioned the sweatshirt story.
Yes. The sweatshirt story at Road Atlanta At
Road Atlanta. And I think it would have been, was it end of 84 or was it the end of 85? The endurance race that they had on Thursday or whatever it was. A friend of mine was riding a 600. He typically rode a Ninja 900. Merrill Moen was his name.
Right.
And Merrill was riding for a team on a 600. And he and Renfro was on an FJ 1100, and Renfro, as he passed him going into Gravity Cavity, nudged him a little bit, and Merrill crashed and spent, I think, the next 2 or 3 nights in the hospital.
Yeah, you don't do that to one of Kevin's friends.
So. And I went to see him at the hospital, and he says, "Man," he goes, "You know what I want you to do so bad? I want you to ride my bike on Sunday." I was like, "I'm not signed up for that class. I can't." He says, "It doesn't matter." He goes, "Just do it." I was like, "Well, okay, my buddy's laying in the hospital. I guess I better." And of course, I didn't ever even practice the bike. I went out for A production on Sunday, and it was a fairly early morning race because that's why I thought I was going to get away with the sweatshirt because it was cold.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so
I
somebody
think
else was supposed to be on the bike, and you just put a sweatshirt on, and you were
and I
pretending to
think I
be
wore
that guy.
Merrill's helmet. And Merrill's head was about 2 sizes or 3 sizes bigger than mine. So the friggin' helmet was about to turn around backwards down the straightaway. And he had won the CRRC, as it was back then, a production championship. So he had tons of points, and I think he had pole. I think I had pole position, and beside me was Renfro and Quarterly, and I forget who else was all there. But anyway, at the drop of the rag, I dropped the hammer and took off like I knew what I was doing. Halfway in, I looked back and I got 6 or 8 second lead. I was like, "What?
Yeah, cool.
Where did everybody go?"
And
Anyway,
wasn't that the race where Renfro like rolled up in the production race and he had Dunlop tires, and on the side of them molded in was his name, wasn't it? Do you remember that?
I don't remember. I was trying to not look at people as much as I could.
Yes.
I think Merrill's helmet had a dark shield on it, so I was like, I'll get away with this.
Yeah.
But anyway, after you win the race, you're supposed to pull off on the old road Atlanta when the pits were outside.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to stop at the tower, and somebody who's in the flag stand comes over and does an interview. And I think it was maybe Richard Chambers. I don't remember. And I was like, man, I just got to I don't even see him. And he's standing right, and I kind of had to take evasive action to get around him. Went straight back to the trailer, jumped off Merrill's bike, gave it to a friend of mine, went and jumped in the trailer and took the sweatshirt off, took the helmet off, opened the door and came walking out like, oh, okay, I'm ready to go race now. Yep. And I think I know Renfro was there.
Yep.
But I think Quarterly was sitting there as well. They're like, "No, sir."
So they protested or whatever.
I don't think it even came to a protest. I think I immediately walked to the tower and
said sorry.
Whoever ran Wera back then was very, very understanding of my position. Thank goodness, because it probably could have been. It wasn't Evelyn, I don't think.
Mm.
It was pre-Evelyn, and I don't remember who it was. But anyway, it was a guy, and he was like, "You know what?" He goes, "I could take your license. I could take everything that you've done all year, and just." He says, "But don't ever do it again."
Oh, yeah.
And I think he kind of gave me a pat on the back as I walked away.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because put your friend in the hospital there, and that's so.
No, and I'm sure Randy didn't do it intentionally. But, an FJ 600 or 600 of some kind. Maybe it was even a GPZ 550. Mm. And Randy on his FJ 1100. And I forget who he was riding for, who he was endurance racing for. May have been the Weisco guys. North Ridge Yamaha, I think, may have been who Randy hired Randy to ride kind of as a shoe-in, really, really fast. And for some reason, I wasn't endurance racing. I don't know why we didn't ride. I don't remember what the situation was that year, but I wasn't in the race. A lot
of people are talking about Valentino. You want to talk about it?
Sure. How old is he now?
40 or 41.
40, man, I thought when he made it to 34, I was like, okay, yeah, now you're pushing it, buddy.
Yeah.
But he's probably going to race till he's 46. I guess that would only make sense, huh?
True. I never thought of that. Yeah, that's a good point. That's
it's interesting for me because when I quit racing, and it was a completely different era in racing. And
sure.
By the time you turned 30, riding a 500, you were looking for what was next in life, because if you survived to that point,
100%.
Going much longer than that, you were looking for a kind of a gravy ride for a couple of years and just kind of step away from it. But I decided to walk away pretty quick, and I never once regretted it, not even a little bit, because back, and I'm sure it's only gotten worse as far as what your media requirements are, what the sponsor requires. And I'm sure Valentino can dictate a little bit better to exactly what he does. But I watch him on a race weekend and just go, why do you want to do that again?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I know racing bikes is fun. I loved every minute of my career. But there comes a certain point where I think financially you've got absolutely everything you could ever want. You've got a camp, you've got an academy, you've got kids coming through the program, and you can still be so involved without having to find a way to get up in the morning and go train and do all that hard work, and as well as during the season, all the promotional work that you got to do. That I'm sure requirements from Dorna, from Yamaha, from everybody involved. It's interesting to me, and I said this the other day. I said I think having those kids in that academy, getting up every morning and kicking their butt at the dirt track or in the gym or wherever they go, whatever they do, that's probably his motivation. And it's definitely made his career last. That, and he's also been really good about not beating himself up too bad.
Yep.
He's had some big crashes and some serious injuries, but he rebounds from them pretty quick.
Yep. But I mean, the accumulated bullshit that he'd have to, trying to find a second on Sunday morning, and that definitely would start to get old after a while.
Yeah, especially when as you've worked your way through the ranks of 125, 250s, 500s, MotoGP bikes, 990s, 800s, whatever they've been. And been just as competitive as can be every day.
Yep.
That extra little bit, Sunday morning warm up, still throwing everything, including the kitchen sink at it, trying to come up with a solution to find a half to three quarters, maybe even a full second. Is hard on you, wears on you. You don't sleep well Friday night. You don't sleep well Saturday night. And you probably don't sleep well Sunday night if you don't get the result that you were hoping for.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think, there seems to be a great deal of debate, as to what Yamaha is going to do for him, how they're going to slot him in and, what people want to do. And at the end of the day, Rossi's bigger than Yamaha, and in Grand Prix anyway, and he can basically do whatever he wants to do. If he needs to have a factory bike in his own team or whatever, they're going to do it. And that's Lynn Jarvis and other people might have ideas on how they think they're going to dictate it, but at the end of the day, Valentino is bigger than they are.
I don't think Lynn's going to be dictating much of anything about Valentino Rossi.
Yep.
I think he'll do as Mr. Rossi
Exactly.
asks. I'm sure he'll never tell him what to do, but he'll ask it. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure Lynn will be told from everybody in Hamamatsu that they do exactly as the 46 wants.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a phone call the other day with Lee Diffie, and we talked
Stiffy
with Wayne Rainey, and Wayne sounds pretty positive that they're going to start racing Wisconsin, Road America, I think, and so I can't wait to see that. I think that U.S. Championship is probably one of those things that right now needs to be out there and needs to be in front of people because it'll easily be forgotten about.
Yep.
And so congrats to Wayne and those guys for being able to, well, as of right now, be able to schedule dates and hopefully have venues where they can go race what's left in the championship that they can still find tracks for. So, and the other one that I think is kind of sitting there probably about to chew his fingernails to nubs would be my buddy Joe Roberts. And just kicking himself in the butt that they're not back racing right now because you have a result like that, you qualify, you race so competitive. The last thing you want to be doing is sitting on your butt. And I'm not saying Joe's sitting on his butt. He's probably training as hard as he's ever trained, just trying to keep from going stir crazy.
Yep. Because it was going
to get
so
back
well.
on that motorcycle because golly, I finally found what I was, what I know I was capable of, and it's probably toughest on him. As far as most of the competitors go, there's other guys out there who've been Moto 2 guys and competitive or Moto 3 champs and are now stepping into Moto 2. They're probably a little less likely to be affected by it. But I'm sure Joe in his head is trying to think nothing but positive thoughts. And man, when can I get back on my race bike?
You do well in one, man. You want to race the next day, isn't it? Isn't that the way it is?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
and even more so, get beat. Getting beat by Wayne. It
True.
was, man, when do we get the chance to race again? Because I've got to. There's a really, really bad taste in my mouth that I've got to get. I need another chance to to redeem myself and our team and all of our sponsors. But yeah, it's tough sitting in. Even more so injured going to a race. I used to hate that. I mean, you guys really don't want me there. I couldn't be good for Pepsi or Lucky Strike if I'm here at the race and people are trying to talk to me, because if I'm not racing at a race, I was a pretty miserable person.
Yeah, no doubt. Yep, for sure. What else? Did you ever finish your GSXR 750 or whatever you had on your stand when I was there the last time and the garage was off limits and I went in there anyway?
Yeah, it's only off limits to most people.
Okay.
You can go anywhere.
Thank you.
The red 86 GSXR.
Yeah, it was nice.
Needed a fair bit of work. I bought it from Dave Hirsch, a friend of mine who's lives in Galveston, who is the Michelin and I think now Bridgestone tire rep for CMRA as it's called now. Anyway, I got it, took it to go get it inspected, and I let my buddy Blake Young ride it just so he could see what a real race bike was like. And coming back from the inspections, getting the inspection sticker for it, it locked up. So I took it to my friends. Took it to my friends at Revival. The clutch basket nut was loose, and it backed itself out. And Blake, being smart enough guy, he sensed that something catastrophic was about to happen, so he just turned it off. And it turned it off before it started to cut through the side cover on the thing. So,
wow.
Anyway, Alan and all the boys at Revival did a great job. Redid the brakes on it, redid the clutch, got everything right in the engine, and she is sitting at home on the battery tender, ready to go.
Cool. Yeah, I saw it at your party, and man, I was immensely envious. That thing is, in current event-wise, I keep hearing the phrase "wet market" or something like that on news or whatever, and whenever I hear that phrase, I can only think of those pictures that you sent me from Japan that time. Was it you and Kageyama, or who was it that you guys went to that?
Kageyama, I don't think Kageyama went with it. It was the Aoki families. Yeah, the Aoki, right. Nabu and his wife and kids.
Yeah,
we went and we didn't get there. I think it opens at like 4 in the morning. And as the public go, I guess buyers can go at 4, but you got to have a license. You got to be a licensed purchaser of fish or have a restaurant or something. But you can go in at 9 as the public goes. And we went in. Wow, just seeing all that stuff. And
fish market.
That place,
where was it, in Tokyo or was it?
Yeah, it was. It was right in Tokyo, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
And I mean, you get in the way of those guys in their little carts, friggin', you end up laying in there with a fish.
Like some of that stuff looked like it was like out of Greek mythology, some of those fish and the
stuff I'd never seen before.
Yeah, never. And
and mixed in amongst that, places where you could go pull up a chair and sit down and have fresh cuts of whatever it was that you wanted.
That'd be cool.
Some dining opportunities there as well.
Yes,
but it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and I don't think we were on this craving sushi just then.
Yeah, just then. So
yeah.
Welcome to the surface of Superbike Planet.